Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Oscar winner Mark Rylance stars in the new golf comedy The Phantom of the Open, which hits DC movie theaters today. We discussed his role as Maurice Flitcroft, who shot the worst round in British Open history, as well as his career from Steven Spielberg's Bridge of Spies to Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk to Aaron Sorkin's The Trial of the Chicago 7.
My pleasure. Are we on the radio then? Nice. I love the radio.
Well, me too. Had you heard of Maurice Flitcroft before, back when his thing was actually going on, or was it only when it came time to do the movie?
No. I was a teenager in the 70s, and I, though I was playing a little bit of golf just for fun in my grandfather's well-mown lawns, I wasn't reading the newspapers, and so I missed Maurice, yeah.
So when it came time around to finally make the movie, were you just blown away? Because us as viewers, we're sitting here watching this and saying, how can this be true? But the great thing is it is. I mean, did you have that sort of experience when you delved into it?
Yeah, I think when I read the script, I thought they must have made this up. This can't be true. But it is true. Yeah, there are even odder things about his life. It's a part of England I'd never visited too, Barrow-in-Furness up on the west coast. Used to be a huge steel town, as big as Pittsburgh. Now it's where they make the submarines. But it's a very working class community out on a peninsula sticking into the sea towards Ireland, and a very proud and kind of rigorous people up there facing that west coast.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get too far in, I need to tell our listeners what we're talking about. So Maurice Flitcroft was, I guess sort of a later in life, comes around to golf after watching it on TV and gets into the British Open tournament in 1976 and shot what was the worst round in Open history, but became a bit of a folk hero in the process. Talk about, obviously there are comedic moments in the movie where, you shank a shot or something into hitting people or hitting the camera or whatever. But tell me about how you sort of walk that fine line of, you don't want to make fun of the real life man, so you got to play it straight. Just talk about walking that fine line of how you just play him as a human.
Well, the audience, you can watch his interviews on YouTube. You can find the interviews he gives on television and breakfast morning television in the UK, and you can't believe it. You think, come on, Mark, you are making fun. You can't seriously think that on a good day you could beat Jack Nicklaus or Arnold Palmer. But I watched them hundreds of times, and he really has this sincere belief in him. So there's a kind of Don Quixote characteristic to him, which I really love, that no matter what the world says about him and the evidence, he did shoot the worst round of golf in the history of the British Open. He doesn't buy into it. He'll hear it, but he has marvelous replies to the press. And that's why the public kind of loved him so much, was that he never conceded that he was a failure. He just had happened to leave his 4-iron in the back of the car that day, and therefore, and with the 4-iron, he's a killer, he says. So if he'd remembered to bring his 4-iron, he would have won. He has wonderful, simple, sincere answers. So I just play him very sincerely, really.
Yes, the sincerity is perfect. And like you're saying, if ever he's on a TV interview and they say, and here he is, the worst golfer in the world, he always stands up and says, no, I take exception to that. Or he's putting on the green and they said, oh, the studio slope here must be a little unbalanced. That's why I shot so bad. Yeah, he's very dedicated to it. What is it? What's the line? Practice is the key to perfection. What is it?
Yeah, that's it. That's right. And he did practice a lot. He was a loner and practiced a lot. He was a crane operator who was made redundant and took up golf as a hobby, but he couldn't join the club, so he just played on beaches with tennis balls and in the school playing grounds. This was the first time he'd ever played on a golf course. So there's a lovely scene in it. If I'm ever have to choose one scene that would be the one scene that survived my career, it would be the scene with Seve Ballesteros, a young Seve Ballesteros just about to become famous, in the locker room, and they're speaking Spanish together. But Seve also practiced on beaches, on sand. And so they both have sand in their shoes. And so there's a lovely meeting place between arguably the world's greatest golfer and the world's worst golfer, if Morris will forgive me for a moment.
Wow. You said that's just one scene in your career. That's right. It ranks up there. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we the audience love you dumping that sand out. Perfect for the sand trap practice. Talk about the relationship with his family in this movie too, though. His wife, the stepson who really doesn't want anything to do with him for most of the movie until we get a turnaround, and then the twin sons, the disco dancers. Like, talk about how them coming around to appreciate their father is sort of like a beating heart of the movie as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I went and met the family and had many days with them. And some of the family are embarrassed by Morris and are quite conservative and don't like his reputation. But his sons adored him and adored his support of their dream. There's a little bit of a Jimmy Stewart, It's a Wonderful Life aspect to Morris too, isn't there?
Yeah.
Small town man encouraging other people, but in this case, then getting his own chance to live the dream as well. Um, Morris had a great sense of justice and injustice. That's the impression I get. When Maradona touched the football in the World Cup with his hand, everyone knows he did it now, and beat England. Morris picked up the television and threw it out the front window, and they had to rush around and rent a new one to watch the rest of the game. He could get very angry about injustice. So they're very, very fond of him, recognized him as an unusual character. But he had incredible self-belief, and we all need a bit of that, I think.
I love that the It's a Wonderful Life connection. Yeah, you even get your George Bailey on the bridge sort of a moment. There's no angel falling out of the sky, but the family comes. You do get that catharsis. And there are some supernatural moments with the graphics and the golf tees, almost like a Big Lebowski, little dream sequences too. It's a really cool movie. I'm really a fan of it. Well, I know we're getting the go home signal pretty soon, but I have to ask you about your Oscar winning role, Bridge of Spies win there, because I was backstage at the Oscars when you came through there covering that thing. We as audiences love Spielberg and Tom Hanks, of course, but from your perspective, working with them as artists, what makes them those artists that we then love? What about their process do you admire?
Oh, they're just naturals, aren't they, Jason? They're just people who love to do what they do and were lucky enough to land on their feet in a place where they can do what they do, and yeah, I mean, they're not effortless. Of course, they put enormous work and care into it, but they're just naturally, like playing tennis with Roger Federer or golf with Tiger Woods. Um, these two guys are just naturally brilliant at what they do, and they're great friends. So my good fortune to go and work with the two of them. You're with two geniuses in what they do, and you're in a place in between them, which is a place of humor and friendship and love, and that they welcome me into that place and encourage me to play with them in that film. Yeah, lucky me.
Absolutely. Well, lucky us, the audiences too. And it just seems like ever since then, everything you touch, it turns to, Oscar nominated gold. Dunkirk, you led that boat evacuation for Christopher Nolan. You were in Sorkin's Trial of Chicago 7, Adam McKay's Don't Look Up. It seems like every year, if you want to know what one of the nominees is going to be, just look for whatever Mark Rylance is in. How do you have that knack to pick and choose? Obviously you were a Broadway star before, but has that Oscar win opened up those doors? Like, how do you pick those winners every time?
I don't know if the Oscar win did. I guess the film did. I guess the fact that I won an Oscar means that people liked that performance in that film. And so it drew, I think I think your work on the radio you may get awarded, but it's your day in, day out work and your reputation from other people that gets you into another job. If you ever wanted another job than what you're doing seemingly very, very well. I don't. I take. I mean, I'm fortunate. I don't have to take every job I'm offered. So I take jobs that interest me, and my primary interest is a good story. So, and usually, if a film is successful, it's got a good story. It's not a story about a story, but it is an actual story. And like a good sporting event, you don't know what's going to happen next, and surprising things happen, and the opposition is as strong as the team you're on, so that you don't know how it's going to come out. And so I choose things for simple reasons like that, and I don't need to play big parts or small parts. I don't need to be paid a lot of money. I just like to be involved in stories that I think, oh, if I wasn't in it, I'd like to see that.
Absolutely. Well, maybe you'll take up golf next, or maybe I'll take up golf next after the radio career. We'll see. Morris showed it could be done. Again, everyone, the Phantom of the Open opens in DC on June 10th. Mark
I hope you're going to
Rylance.
put some good golf sounds behind this interview. Whacks of balls and balls flying through the air, things getting broken.
Of course, and we'll wear our little disguises like the character. It'll be great. All right, hey, Mark Rylance, thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Nice to talk with you, Jason. Cheers.
Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.